Everybody, you're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. Making me just a small part of your day. You know that I appreciate you. It is a Friday. So I hope everybody is safe, happy, ready to go, enjoy this weekend and the time off. Now, we've got some things to talk about because the coaches poll came out yesterday. The USA Today coaches poll came out. Jim McElwain has some things to say about Tennessee. He's getting tired of the Tennessee rhetoric. I know some of you are because I talk about Tennessee practically every day on this show. And look, at this point, there's nothing new to say about the Vols. Like they're at this point the favorites, and I've talked about both sides of the fence. Is Tennessee ready to be the favorite? Should they be the favorite? I mean, I've thrown the skepticism ball around everywhere. And at this point, we're just kind of exhausting things to talk about. And if you're a Georgia fan and you're a Florida fan, you're looking at everybody and going, hey, what about us? Aren't we in the conference too? Don't we also have a chance to win the East? Of course you do. That's the reason why you have to bring up all the doubt about Tennessee. Because, I mean, Georgia's not a gimme. Right? I mean, Georgia's not a gimme. And certainly until we see what we've got in Del Rio, we don't know what the deal is with Florida. Like, Florida's going to be, like every school, I guess, as good as their quarterback's going to be. Is Luke Del Rio going to be the guy for them? How good is he really? Trying to find some time to watch Luke Del Rio this weekend. I watched a lot of Tennessee this week because come on, that's the biggest thing in our coverage area. But I watched a lot of Tennessee this week, so I'm trying to temper my Tennessee expectations because I was one of those people that, like, when you look at the schedule and you look at everything, it almost at first seems like a no-brainer. Like, Tennessee's going to win the East, and if you're picking against Tennessee, you're being a contrarian, essentially. In fact, if you pick against Tennessee to win the SEC, you're almost kind of being a contrarian because Alabama's schedule is rough. And LSU's schedule is pretty tough also. You know, outside of playing Alabama, LSU's got a tough deal as well. And playing in the SEC West tends to do that to you. Like, the West is just a murderer's row. I mean, there's no other way to describe that. So, yeah, I understand people's frustration with Tennessee and talking about Tennessee, but the coaches poll came out, and there was an interesting thing of note there with Tennessee. So we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show as well. And you know I can't resist a little bit of NBA talk. Russell Westbrook signs his 3-year extension with the Oklahoma City Thunder, essentially buying the Thunder one more season of Russell Westbrook than they would have had. And it's huge for them. It makes a lot of sense for them. It's a great move. But we do this interesting thing where we paint people as good guys, bad guys, and it's so absolute that we can't be wrong about this, even though our metric for what makes a good guy and a bad guy changes seemingly all the time. So we'll talk about Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. Which guy's the good guy? Which guy's the bad guy? I'll let you know. All of those things and more coming up ahead here on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. But before we jump into those things, let me tell you about the platforms. Where can you find us and where can we find you? I highly recommend the social media, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Those are the places you can reach out to us. You can also reach us. We're going to make an email account for the community corner, the Clutch Community Corner here at Hot News Talk Radio. It is something that we're trying to do so that we can recognize people in the community. We're going to be interviewing people who coach Little League football teams, high school coaches, and people in the community. United Way, everybody. If you do something in the community or you know somebody who's doing something in the community, whether it's somebody supporting the Day of Caring or whatever it may be, reach out to us at any of those platforms, the Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio, and you will find us. Also, make sure to check us out if you want to stream us online. HotNewsTalkRadio.com streams everything, and it gets you the links to the social media also. You could stream us also from our Facebook page. You can also stream us in the TuneIn Radio app. Again, that's the TuneIn Radio app. It's completely free. Search Hot News Talk Radio in the app. Give us a favorite and press play. You'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go, and you'll be able to listen to all of our programming, both local and abroad. You got Sean Hannity. You've got Colin Cowherd. You've got the Art Beat of Chattanooga. You've got Best Shot. You've got Clutch, and so much more, coast to coast at night. Sons of Liberty. I mean, come on. We just got programming for days. So let's talk about the coaches poll, because the coaches poll has a few things on it that have intrigued me. One is that it's the Amway coaches poll, which is ridiculous because A, it's a coaches poll in a newspaper. Really? Does it need sponsorship in that way? It's a poll in a newspaper. Also, your sponsor is Amway, the pyramid scheme company. Amway. And look, if you work for Amway or work with Amway, I don't mean to make fun of you or anything. I'm not, but it's a pyramid scheme. And if it's not a pyramid scheme, then it's certainly triangular in nature. It's one of those things. Amway? Really? Okay, so the Amway coaches poll came out, and there were some interesting things because I think a lot of people feel like this is a year that Alabama's probably not going to win the SEC. It's their weakest year. It's their weakest number of returning students in a while. It's their toughest schedule in a while. Alabama, it's going to be rough for them. I mean, you've got your cupcakes on the schedule that everyone has, and then you've got just 7 games of death. Alabama's 2016 schedule is ridiculous. And this is a year where you're looking at Alabama's 2016 schedule and going, okay, it's very possible they could not win this conference this year. And you're looking at a team, Tennessee, they're up and coming. Their schedule is softer. They return more players. Surely Tennessee has a chance to win the conference. In fact, Colin Cowherd has Tennessee finishing 4th, winning the conference and getting that playoff berth that everybody is coveting. So it's one of the things that people have been talking about. But I think that we've been talking about it for so long that we've talked ourselves back out of it. Talked Tennessee into winning the East for so long, a lot of people have talked themselves back out of it. It's just one of those things where you're just tired of hearing Tennessee, 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 Tennessee over and over and over again, to the point where the coaches in the coaches poll are looking at this and going like, what have they proven really? Like, what has Tennessee really proven? You saw what they did in the second half of their schedule last year, but if you look at the second half of last year, that schedule was not all that tough. The tough part of that schedule was the first half, and they didn't win those games. They were close, but great teams win close games, right? Like Alabama's got an opportunity to not repeat here because of the toughness of the schedule. Tennessee's got a chance to go on here because of the weakness of the schedule. This is what Alabama's schedule looks like. They open against USC. Then they play against Western Kentucky. Is Western Kentucky an SEC school? No, but they're not a joke. Then they play Ole Miss, and Ole Miss has got their number. Kent State is a winnable game, obviously. Kentucky is another winnable game. And then they run into Arkansas. Then they play Tennessee in Neyland. Then they play A&M. Then they have a bye week, followed by LSU, Mississippi State. That is, what is that? That's 5 games of death in a row. Then they play UTC. Then they play Auburn. I mean, this is a tough schedule, okay? This is death, like to the point where Cowherd saw the schedule. He saw Western Kentucky. He saw Kent State, and he saw Chattanooga, and he thought, well, you know what? That's a soft schedule for them without looking at the rest of the schedule, because there's no way you can look at Tennessee, or no, there's no way you can look at Arkansas, at Tennessee, against A&M, at LSU, and then Mississippi State, and look at that and go, yeah, that's a weak schedule. That's a tough schedule. I don't think Alabama repeats here. The question is it Tennessee that gets the nod? Because this schedule here for Tennessee is infinitely easier. It's a much easier schedule. Let's take a look at the schedule. At Appalachian State visits Tennessee to open the season. Then they play Virginia Tech, Bristol Motor Speedway, neutral location. Then Ohio, they play the Bobcats at Neyland Stadium. Then they play Florida at Neyland Stadium. Then they play Georgia. Then they play Texas A&M at Kyle Field. They play them out there. Then they play Alabama. That's as tough as the schedule gets. Florida, Georgia, Texas A&M, Alabama. That's as tough as it gets. And it's tough. That is a tough stretch, admittedly. But they're allowed to lose one of those games and still be able to win the conference. Pretty handily, especially if the Alabama game is the one that you lose. I think people will allow that to slide. You can't lose to Florida. You can't lose to A&M. I don't think anyone's going to accept that. You might be able to get away with Florida because it's early enough in the season that if you win out I mean, it just looks good on you. Okay, you've improved from there. And also you would have had to have then beat Georgia and Alabama. But let's make it clear here. I mean, that's as tough as that schedule gets, because after Alabama, you've got a bye week, then you've got South Carolina. They're still rebuilding. Then you've got Tennessee Tech. Then you've got Kentucky. Then you've got Missouri, who's not any good this year. Then you've got Vanderbilt, who is improving, solid defensively. And you know what? Good at playing you, but you should still beat them. And then you got the SEC championship game. So Tennessee's in a good position, but I think like when you look at it, you look at Tennessee and go, are they the kind of team that could lose all 4 of those games where the rough patch is? Could they lose 3 out of 4 to all 4 of those games? They really could. What I want to see, because Tennessee doesn't go further than Butch Jones takes them. Sure, you could throw everything at the feet of Josh Dobbs, but Tennessee doesn't go further than Butch Jones takes them. And I don't know if that man is going to make knuckleheaded decisions late in games this year. Because I guarantee you the Georgia game might end up being pretty close. The Alabama game was close last year. Okay, and it's probably going to be close again this year. Sure, you're the favorite, but it's probably going to be close. And Luke Del Rio's the wild card with Florida. We just don't know what Florida looks like with a good pocket passer. They haven't had one since Will Grier was suspended last year. And Treon Harris was so horrible, like I forgot what that offense looked like when it functioned. So I don't know. Could Tennessee drop all of this? The coaches in the coaches poll seem to think so. The coaches poll, these are the top 4 teams in the coaches poll. Number 1, Alabama, okay, which makes sense. It's very hard to put a bunch of coaches in a room and say, pick against Nick Saban. They won't do it. They're just not going to. Number 2, Clemson, the Tigers. Obviously, Dabo Swinney, Deshaun Watson. I mean, that's a combo there. It's hard to overlook that one. I would have had them at number 1, but obviously the coach is not going to choose against Saban. Number 3, Oklahoma, which is also a good pick. Oklahoma should be fantastic again this year. And then number 4, Florida State, which, you know, if and it's not a 1-to-1 because it's a poll, so it's an average of what a bunch of guys think. But basically, you're saying 2 ACC schools make it into the playoff. I don't think until we expand this thing, I don't think we're ever going to see 2 schools from one conference make it into the playoffs. I just think that every conference at the top is too good. I just don't think the committee's ever going to give 2 schools from one conference. And I think everyone was afraid of that when we first started doing the playoff. We're not going to ever see it. And if we do see it, there's no way we're going to give it to 2 ACC schools. It's just never going to happen. Florida State or Clemson, one of those schools is going to have to be above the other one. It just is. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose, talking about Tennessee and people being tired of Tennessee, because people have talked Tennessee from being basically a lock to win the East and possibly win the SEC and possibly make the playoff to being much further out of there. And I'm looking at the coaches poll as the perfect example of that. Number 6 on the list as other notable schools is LSU. And LSU could very well win it too. LSU has got favorable enough schedule, and they've got their one game against Alabama. They've got that game in Death Valley. It's a good spot for them. That's LSU spot. And then from there on, you know, you win the SEC title game if Alabama is the game that you win and say you drop another one somewhere in there. You're LSU. There's no good reason why you shouldn't be able to make the playoff either. Like you've got as much a case as anybody for doing it. And then further down the list at number 10, then you have Tennessee, which you finish 10th. You're not going to make the playoff. I can't imagine a scenario in which Tennessee finishes 10th. And like, unless they drop all 4 of those games, and that's possible. And I think when you look at the coaches poll, I don't think it's that coaches disrespect Butch Jones, but certainly they don't have the level of respect that they have for Les Miles or a Nick Saban, guys that have just been known commodities in the SEC out there and doing it. You've got to see Butch Jones win. For me, that's what it's going to take to convince me. I've got to see Butch win. Then 16, you've got Georgia, and then 25, you've got Florida. And it's interesting to hear people talk about this because Jim McElwain's tired of hearing about Tennessee. You hear all the Florida players on Twitter, the Florida players at media days, basically going, how are we not getting any respect? We've owned Tennessee for a decade. And all of these points are good points. It's very hard to look at your school and go, but we've beaten them for 10 years straight, consecutively. We've beaten them for 10 years straight. How are they picking them over us right now? Well, because they look better than you right now. The way they finished last season, the way you finished last season, very different seasons. Florida floundered to the finish of last season. Florida hasn't had a quarterback that they've been able to keep in a decade. I mean, since Tebow, basically. It's been 8 years since they've had a quarterback that they've been able to keep. That's been good. Either he's looked good, turned out to be terrible, and transferred away, or maybe he looked promising and he still transferred away. I mean, you haven't been able to keep one. So, yeah, they're going to pick the Vols over you because Josh Dobbs looks like a good, sure thing. Can he throw the ball down the field? Heck no. But he completes more than 60% of his passes, and he's incredibly mobile. You call his number in the red zone, he's scoring a touchdown with his feet. So you're going to take Tennessee over Florida. I'm going to pick Tennessee over Florida. Tennessee is going to be Florida this year. I'm calling it. And I know we say this year after year after year. I think Tennessee is going to be Florida this year. Florida fans, you got a problem with that? Call 423-800-8949. That's the hot news hotline. Go ahead and let me hear it. But I think Tennessee is gonna win the East. I just think it's interesting the amount of coaches that have walked back on that. And, you know, Florida is a school, they're just not willing to let go of all of this. They're not willing to let go of all this. And it's funny, too, because Tennessee is a school that's taken on the personality of their coach, which is to say that they are boring. The Vols are boring. And look, you want boring. Look at the Spurs. Boring. Look at the Patriots. Boring. Boring is good. If you are boring and you are winning, you are fine. The Vols love this. The players especially love that the coaches poll has got them at 10. It makes for fantastic bulletin board material. Right? Look, they had us at 10. They didn't believe in us. Let's go out there and try and prove them wrong. But also, Tennessee has been looking for any reason whatsoever to hide from the hype. Butch Jones hates hype trains. Okay? He would never punch a ticket on one if he had the chance. But people build hype without you. And when you recruit as well as Tennessee recruits, the hype train is starting. The hype train is firing up, and there's not a darn thing you can do about it. Just get aboard. Now, Butch Jones kind of got aboard it during media days a little bit. He was like, "Hey, look, I think we're gonna be good." Started embracing some of that stuff, but then you say that Tennessee is 10th in the nation. Perfect. Everybody's back to underestimating the Vols again, and this time Butch didn't have to say anything to keep everybody quiet. People are underestimating Tennessee all on their own. And Butch Jones doesn't like to have expectations that the team has to rise to. He's very understated that way, if you've ever heard him talk. It's like it's what paint drying would sound like if it had a voice. Butch Jones, not an interesting human being at all. He is the most coach in that way. Most football coaches try to be boring people. I mean, you've got a few personalities in the SEC. You've got Bielema. I mean, there's no getting around that. You've got Muschamp. There's no getting around that. He's a coordinator, but you've got Kiffin. You've got some personalities around. But most guys are like Butch Jones. You don't say a whole lot. You don't give a whole lot. And then, if you're Nick Saban, every now and then you throw a tantrum and yell at the media. Butch Jones, this is perfect. This is exactly what Tennessee wants. Tennessee being underestimated, regardless of the reason. And I just think everybody's just tired of hearing Tennessee, Tennessee, Tennessee. They love to see them prove it on the field. They'd love to see them play it out. At some point, your preseason power rankings, your preseason projections can only do so much for people. You just want to see it played on the field. And we're 4 weeks away. We are 4 agonizing weeks away from the start of this thing. And I think everybody's just tired of hearing it. You just want to see it. Like, just wake me up when they actually start playing games. And Butch Jones, whether or not people are tired, whether or not people just don't care, whether or not people legitimately are disrespecting the Vols, see if Butch Jones cares. This is exactly what Butch Jones wants. Butch Jones could not have manufactured a better situation when it comes to not having any expectations to meet whatsoever if he tried. And he has tried before, and he has not succeeded in quieting the hype train. And then the Amway USA Today coaches poll came right on out and did it for him. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. I want to talk about Russell Westbrook and the miraculous return of Nick Chubb next.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. I'm Larry Daniels from Daniels Insurance, and on the average, our customers save $400 a year. We offer retirement vehicles and annuities in addition to other investment products that help you protect your family. Call 423-332-4774.
Order a 16-inch pizza at Toscano's Italian Grill and get a free 10-inch pizza. Toscano's, authentic Italian food, fresh-made ingredients and sauces. When you and your bambino sit down at Toscano Italian Grill, you're served by smiling people. They make you feel like part of the family. Toscano's is easy to find. It's in the recruiting center at 153 and Lee Highway. Toscano's, scrumptious pizzas made with fresh dough. Come to you bubbling hot from an authentic brick oven. Mention Hot News Talk Radio and you'll get a free 10-inch pizza when you order a 16-incher. Heaping portions, friendly, 10:30 to 10:30, 7 days a week. Toscano delivers. 805-3888. Like us on Facebook. Ask about Toscano's app. Nobody does it better. Mention Hot News Talk Radio and you'll get a free 10-inch pizza with 2 toppings when you order a 16-incher. 805-3888. Nobody does it better.
Finding just the right place to live can be a daunting task. Stop your search. In Chattanooga, the place to live is Cross Creek Villas for under $1,000 and available for immediate move-in. You can enjoy this 2-bedroom split layout, over 1,000 square feet, 9-foot ceilings, an extra-large patio or balcony. And don't forget to ask about their preferred employer program. Cross Creek Villas is a gated community offering a 24-hour fitness facility, a beautiful pool and hot tub, and Cross Creek Villas is pet friendly. Stroll the pet park with your best friend and enjoy the free use of their business center and clubhouse. Plus, if you mention you heard this on the radio, your application fee is free. Cross Creek Villas, close to downtown off of Highway 58. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com. That's crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. That's 894-0446. Redefine the way you live at Cross Creek Villas. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. Cross Creek Villas.
Lingering showers and storms will slowly settle down through the nighttime. Some late fall developing, lows 70 to 72. For Friday and Saturday, continued hot and humid with partly cloudy skies. A few isolated afternoon storms popping up each day with highs back into the lower 90s. Looking for your dream home? McBriar Realty can help. With decades of experience, they get big-time results with small-town values. Licensed for the tri-state, check McBriarRealty.com for their complete listings. And I'm Smore Team 12's Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. The election in Hamilton County is over and the results are in. Rhonda Thurman, the incumbent, has won the election for Hamilton County School Board, but she's the only incumbent on the Hamilton County School Board. District 2, Kathy Lennon taking the win, and District 4, Tiffany Robinson taking the win. Joe Wingate in District 7. Criminal Court judges Tom Greenholtz, Chuck Fleischman taking the win for U.S. House, and Scott Desjardins taking the win for 4th District U.S. House. Melody Shikari, House 3rd District. Mike Carter, House 29th District. Also winning are Christy Wilkinson, Joanne Favors, and Marty Haynes for the county property assessor. Rhonda Thurman, again, the incumbent in the school board. Major changes in the Hamilton County School Board. We'll see what happens. In Cleveland, James Eady, who's 26, has been arrested for attempted sexual battery and indecent exposure. Officer Willie Espinoza was called to the scene after multiple parents made complaints about a man exposing himself at a park. The suspect was arrested after he tried to ride away on a bike. It's going on in the Tennessee Valley. It's going on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Jalen Hurd feels slighted by the coach's poll. Just a little bit. He said he looks forward to exceeding the expectations of the coach's poll. This is how bad it's been for Tennessee fans. Tennessee is ranked 10th on the coach's poll. 10th. We're happy about it. We're happy to be 10th. Because it's just been that long since the Vols have had real recognition, like a real group of people believing that they have a chance at winning the conference, which to me seems preposterous. And it seems preposterous because you're better than 10th. You mean you can't be excited about 10th if you're better than 10th. And I understand being happy to just finally be in the conversation. But that is just disrespectful, man. You're better than 10th. You're better than 10th. Like I'm looking for the words, like there's a cool turn of phrase or a more poetic way to say you're better than 10th. No, there isn't. You just are better than 10th. Don't just sit there and take that. Really? This is Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Clutch with Keon Rose. You are okay. I can understand the coaches putting you behind Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, and Florida State. Those have kind of been the schools that have been in the mix for the past few years. But for no reason should Tennessee be behind Notre Dame. If you're going to take into account everything, are you saying if all of these schools played each other head to head, this is how you would rank them? Because even then, okay, then this list is wrong. If all the 10 of these schools played head to head, there's no reason why Alabama should be above Clemson. If Alabama's going to be losing starters and Clemson is more or less the same, and Deshaun Watson's going to be the Heisman frontrunner. I mean, look at that. How is that possible? So you're just putting Alabama up top because they're the defending champs and Nick Saban's their head coach. So if you're going to base it on that, then how do you have Tennessee at 10? Michigan's schedule is tougher than Tennessee's. Notre Dame's schedule is tougher than Tennessee's. Tennessee's got a slightly easier schedule than all of them. Their schedule is easier than LSU, who is at 6, and they're better than Ohio State, I think. I know, right? Crazy. I think they're better than Ohio State. The Tennessee should be at least 5. Don't just look at that 10 and just take it. You're supposed to be better than that. But no, we were just so excited to just finally be in the conversation. It really doesn't matter where they rank us on the poll. Oh my gosh, they ranked us. Of course they were going to rank you. Look at the rest of the East. Look at the rest of the SEC. There's nobody else. Okay? I think we're a year away from good Georgia. I think we're a year away from good Florida. So what are we being serious about here? Tennessee is the school that's been the one that's building, and now they're finally here. You deserve to be higher up on this poll, especially since when you look at the SEC East, right? Two other schools from the SEC East made this poll. You got to play against them. I mean, I just don't get it, man. Anyway. It's Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. I don't know if you're going to watch the Olympics tonight, but I like to rain on everybody's parade. So this is your daily reminder that the Olympics are a mess. I won't go into detail like I usually do because every day I find a new thing to make fun of the Olympics for, which, by the way, I do prep before the show. I prepare before every show. I do research. I look up data. I look up stats. I try and watch some video, make sure that I've got all my ducks in a row before I stand in front of a microphone and just make proclamations. With that said, the easiest thing on earth to do is to find more stuff going wrong with the Olympics. Like, that doesn't take any prep at all. My phone just sends Google notifications to me whenever something wrong happens with the Olympics, which is to say that I'm updated basically 2 times a day at least about new developments happening in the Olympics. What I'm hoping right now is that our Olympic athletes don't get horrifyingly sick from swimming in their sewage water for the events that they'll be participating in, because that seems ridiculous. They didn't even give the media good rooms. Like, the media could have been the ones to make this whole thing go away. They show up, their stuff looks fine, their stuff looks good. And then they're just like, I don't know what everyone else is complaining about. It wasn't that bad. And then literally it all goes away. You put the media where there was no food. You put their room, you built their room on top of a mass African slave grave. You just built it there, which is at least as unlucky as building on top of a Native American burial ground. At least, I would argue, more unlucky. Just saying. And then on top of that, the shower heads don't work. The bed's broken. There's no tables. There's no outlets. Like, what do you want the media to hate you when you arrived? Making fun of the Olympics is way too easy. So today I will not do it. That's all I'm saying on that. It's just your daily reminder that it's a mess. I will continue to remind you day after day after day. Also, Zika virus is down there, and now it's here. So thank you for all of that. All of that. Derrick Henry is now at the Tennessee Titans, and he is one of the rookies I am most looking forward to seeing, because a lot of people have criticisms of Alabama running backs or system running backs. Anybody could run behind those offensive lines. If you gave me the ball, I could run behind that offensive line. Like, no, you couldn't. And certainly you couldn't run behind that offensive line quite like Derrick Henry ran behind that offensive line. Derrick Henry's a beast. I mean, he's an absolute monster. Okay. But you saw the way that Trent Richardson fell into the NFL and then just like vanished. Didn't play well at all. There's pictures of Trent Richardson missing wide open holes. And so the joke goes around, it must have been really easy to run in Alabama. Okay, dude. Sure. I mean, sure, it's easier running at Alabama than a lot of other places, I imagine. But Alabama produces great running backs for a number of reasons, one of which is that they keep finding elite running back talent. It's not like they're putting a bunch of no-name dudes you never heard of behind a great offensive line. And, oh, look, these guys can really run. Like whatever it is that Arkansas does. That's what Arkansas does. Arkansas finds dudes you never heard of, and then they're 1,000-yard rushers. And you're just like, okay, I guess that's just how that is. Alabama doesn't do that. Like, these guys are really good when they get there. Those guys are fantastic when they get there. So I'm looking forward to Derrick Henry as a pro in the NFL. Mike Mularkey has some criticisms of Derrick Henry's running style, though. He thinks that Derrick Henry is a slow starter. Got the offensive line creating space, opening up holes in front of him, and he is still hesitating. And again, that's a coachable thing. That's something that just with coaching can go away. I'm still excited to see how that's going to work, if that's going to work with a two-headed dragon situation, because they also acquired DeMarco Murray, and then you've got a running threat in Marcus Mariota as well. The Titans, I think the Titans are going to be like the most improved team this year. Like, the worst division in football is no longer the AFC South, and I think of the teams in the AFC South, you could argue that the Titans were the worst team for the longest time. It was between them and the Jaguars. This year, I think the Titans are the most improved. I think they get to like 8-8, 7-9. Maybe in an optimistic season where they get a few bounces that go their way, they're even 9-7. Because I'm looking at it, and you still got to compete with the Jags, and the Jags still have a long ways to go as well. They're one of those teams that's improving too. And we don't know what we've got in Brock Osweiler down there in Houston. We have no clue. And then in Indianapolis, before Andrew Luck got injured, he was playing horrible. And the Colts are bad. And if he doesn't stay healthy, they'll be worse. They're a dreadful football team. They're absolutely horrific. So with that said, the Tennessee Titans aren't back by any stretch of the imagination. They're not back, but they are pretty solid, and they could very well be the most improved team in the NFL. And I'm looking forward to watching Derrick Henry play, because I really liked watching him play in college. He was a guy that I did not initially choose last year to be the Heisman Trophy winner. And he tore it up And I jumped on the Derrick Henry bandwagon. I hopped on the bandwagon, and I hopped on that bandwagon from the Trayvon Boykin bandwagon. From the Boykin bandwagon, I went to Fournette bandwagon, and from the Fournette bandwagon, I found myself on the Derrick Henry bandwagon. I got there last. I was like the last dude on there, and I'm not going to get off. He's in the NFL now. It's time to hop off the bandwagon. No. That dude was awesome last year. He was impossible to tackle for large portions of the season. Like, the yards after contact with him was incredible. And the reason why we didn't notice that he was doing a really good job of yards after contact is that Leonard Fournette existed. And he will make you forget a lot of good things about a lot of good running backs because he's just that great. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. And speaking of running backs, Nick Chubb, a guy who we didn't know whether or not Nick Chubb was going to be able to start the season. We didn't know at what point in the season he would even show up. Nick Chubb is probably going to be around for the season opener for North Carolina. Nick Chubb, who, as you recall, tore his ACL last year against Tennessee in a game where he was dominating up until the point that he tore his ACL. Tennessee comes back, wins that game after being down huge at the half. But Georgia losing Nick Chubb in that game was part of why Georgia lost that game. That, and, Grayson Lambert's their quarterback. And I make fun of Josh Dobbs all the time for not being able to throw the ball very far. Yet Grayson Lambert is a noodle arm. So there, I'm being fair. I'm being equal. There it is. I'm spreading the hatred around evenly. But yeah, Georgia had trouble moving the ball after they lost Chubb because Grayson Lambert can't really throw the ball that far. And Chubb was the workhorse. Chubb was the guy. And Tennessee was not tackling Nick Chubb up until the point where he got injured. They just weren't doing it. And Nick Chubb is coming back. And he's going to probably be back for the season opener for North Carolina. That's starting to look more and more like a certainty. He was actually ahead of schedule last year, coming, I think, December, January. He was supposed to still be on crutches, and he was just off crutches. Like, dude was just walking around like a monster man, like some kind of beast. He's just walking around without crutches after tearing his ACL 3 months before. This is crazy to me. And it was a painful tear. Like, the injury looked horrible. It looked bad. And I'm not saying that it was you doubted that Nick Chubb could come back to his form, but I definitely didn't think it would be this fast. I thought it was going to be, maybe midway through the season, 4 or 5 games into the season, we see Nick Chubb and we hope that he can really play well. Now Nick Chubb is back. He looks fantastic in practice from all the reports that I've heard. He looks really great. The only thing Nick Chubb hasn't done is take contact yet, which I'm not going to, believe the knee until I see him take the contact and keep pushing, right? That's the one thing that you've got to see. And you know what? Everyone's been telling him that. You know that. Everybody's been going, how's the knee? How's the knee? And when Nick Chubb is ready to be an NFL prospect, that's what every scout on earth is going to ask him. Every coach, how's the knee? How's the knee? Like, he's never going to get past how's the knee until he notches a 2,000-yard season in the NFL or something. You know what I mean? Like, he's never going to put those notions of the knee to rest. Even Todd Gurley, after his rookie season, didn't put those notions of the knee to rest. Like, people still think about Todd Gurley's knee in a way that maybe isn't even wholly fair to Todd Gurley. And so Nick Chubb's kind of in the same camp. He said he got advice from Todd. He got advice from Keith Marshall, who also injured his knee. I mean, and Marshall's injury was not anywhere near as bad as Chubb's, by the way. No, Marshall's injury was a complete tear, which they say is better. They say the complete tear is better than the partial tear because your body doesn't know what to do with the partial tear. But Nick Chubb came back, and I'm excited tentatively, but part of me hopes that he's not rushing back because you can re-aggravate these injuries. And I hope that he's, I know that the doctors aren't going to let him play if he's not really ready to play. But I personally, as a guy who has seen his fair share of knee injuries in life, watching sports over the years, I worry about guys that come back really quickly from knee injuries. I do. It's scary to me because your body is healing at a rate that the doctors are saying it shouldn't have been healing. Now, look, you're a top-level collegiate athlete at Georgia for a reason. Your body can do things that the rest of our bodies simply cannot do. So I get it. If you heal faster, I don't even really need a scientific explanation to make that plausible in my mind, because when I watch Nick Chubb run, I can't run like that. When I watch Nick Chubb shrug tacklers off, I can't do that. So when a doctor says, yeah, no, he's healing faster, no, I just believe it. I get that. But I still worry. Like, I still worry that you're not coming back a little bit too quickly. And if for some reason, God forbid, because I don't wish injuries on anybody, God forbid, for some reason, that injury ends up being re-aggravated, how much further do you set yourself back with that? You know what I mean? Like, if I'm Nick Chubb, I don't play until like 5 weeks in. And I understand wanting to be there, and I understand wanting to be ready. But if the doctors had me coming in at that time, I just come in at that time. Like, I want to play the NFL later. Like, I want a shot at that. And I know we don't like it when athletes do that selfishly. Like, let me forget about my college team to try and see if I can't get paid doing this. But if playing in the NFL was your dream, then, you know, I would put the college behind. I'd put the college on the back burner. He's got every right to. Of course, I'm also the same person that thinks if I'm Leonard Fournette, for no reason do I play this season. I just sit the whole thing out. Like, everything I've been able to show people, I showed them last year. I'm not going to risk anything this year. I'm that guy too. But Leonard Fournette's a different case because he's completely healthy. With Nick Chubb, I don't think anybody would blame you if you were just like, let me recover some more. Like, I know the doctors say I'm ready, but I tore my ACL. I tore a ligament in my knee. I'm going to take all the time that I think my body needs to come back from this properly. And I don't think anybody on earth would blame you. I certainly wouldn't, but I think even more diehard fans that are like, you've got to do this all for the team, I don't think they would blame you. You know, go ahead and take all the time you need to actually recover from your horrific knee injury. Please, by all means, take as long as you need. I was going out on sales, and I was looking for the owner of this business, and turns out he just came out of back surgery. And you know what? I could push the issue and say, you know what? I really need to hear from him. I need his email address. I need his whatever. Dude came out of back surgery. Take all the time you need to recover. I'll come back later. I will come back at another date. Don't you worry about a thing. I don't need this as badly as he needs to recover from back surgery. Same thing for Nick Chubb. You're recovering from knee surgery, dude. Doing things that most human bodies can't even do. Take as long as you need to recover from that, man. I just don't rush back from that. I've seen that go wrong a few times, and it didn't go like terribly wrong, but it was wrong enough. Certainly, like Robert Griffin III is one example that he got injured in 2012 and he came back in 2013 and he rushed to be back for the season opener. And you know what? He was mostly fine, but he didn't look the same. He didn't look as fast. He didn't have that explosiveness. Just take your time and come back. You've got your whole career ahead of you. You do. And I like Nick Chubb, and I want him to be successful, and I want him to do well. Just saying. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose, Russell Westbrook, and the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm going to close with this. See what happened there? I spent like 80% of the show talking college football. Because I know when I talk NBA this close to the college football season, I catch a lot of flack for it. I hear you all on Twitter. Okay, I see you. All right, you people DMing me and letting me know what the deal is. You can follow me on Twitter at SportsCloud. Why don't you talk more college football? 80% of the show is college football. I like the NBA too. Let me talk about the NBA for like 5 minutes. Dang, man. 5 minutes. I'm just asking for 5. Russell Westbrook signed a 3-year extension with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I like what this is because this is a moral dilemma. You know the moral dilemmas. The moral dilemma is like if you are the conductor of a train and there is a small child in the train in front of you, you would divert the train, right? And you wouldn't hit the small child. But what if there's a small child in front of you, but if you divert the train, you end up taking the train off and you've got 10 passengers on board, 10 adult passengers on board. Who do you save? Do you hit the kid and save the 10 adults? Or do you lose the 10 adults to save the kid? It's a moral dilemma. The answer is there is no right answer. Pick whatever answer you feel like you should pick. Because whatever answer you pick says a lot about you. But this is one of those situations where we like to do things in sports where we call somebody a good guy and we call somebody a bad guy. Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook have been in that position while they were on the same team together. KD was the good guy. Russell Westbrook was the bad guy. KD was seen as the more unselfish guy, wanting to win. Russell Westbrook seemed to be about his stats, about his numbers. And that fair or unfair? Because I don't actually know. I don't know Kevin Durant. I don't know Russell Westbrook. I don't know if KD is actually unselfish. I don't know if Russ is actually selfish. I have no clue. Especially since both of those guys do great work in the community and those guys help their respective areas. I have no idea. But what I will say is this. Russell Westbrook, because of the way that he plays, I think he looks more unselfish. He's aggressive. He needs the ball in his hand to score. He needs the ball in his hand to really be effective. And the aggressiveness and the anger that he goes to the basket with, the way that sometimes he'll show up opponents, people have labeled him the more selfish one. He's not, as a point guard, considered a more willing passer, even though he actually is one of the league leaders in assists. That's just one of those misnomers on him, I guess. But he's still seen as more selfish until recently, when Kevin Durant decided to do what was good for Kevin Durant, winning a championship, and leave a team that he was on that was a championship caliber team to go to the Golden State Warriors, who were the team that beat him to go to the NBA Finals, and C, a team that doesn't need him to get to the finals at all. Kevin Durant's not helping the Warriors reach new heights. They're the best regular season in the history of the NBA. That team's already got a title. Kevin Durant's not helping this team reach a new level. They can get there without him. Kevin Durant wants a ring. Russell Westbrook stays in Oklahoma City. He's forced to have free agency sooner than he would rather have liked. He chooses to stay in OKC. Basically, they pay him more money this season, and by extending him, they get to keep him another season. Doesn't necessarily guarantee that he won't leave or that they won't trade him or any of those things. But what it does guarantee is that they won't get nothing for him. And they've got him for another year. And Russell Westbrook is being applauded by the Oklahoma City media. Literally, when he said that if you knew where you wanted to be, you should just hurry up and decide to be there. Russell Westbrook getting cheers from the media, the quote-unquote unbiased media. And we've painted Westbrook as the good guy for staying and Durant as the bad guy for leaving. Even though it's funny because the thing that we always decide makes someone a good guy or a bad guy is, does he play for his team? Does he play for his stats, or does he try to get a ring? Durant leaves to go join a team that's seen as a very ultimate type team to try and get a ring. The way the Warriors pass the ball, he's trying to get a ring. Meanwhile, Russell Westbrook stays in OKC, which is seen as the unselfish move, except he gets paid way more money. He gets to stick around and pad his stats. Oh, and he gets plausible deniability built in. If Russell Westbrook isn't capable of carrying Oklahoma City away, it's somehow all Kevin Durant's fault for leaving, which is just crazy to me. What we call good guy and bad guy in sports shifts so much perceptionally based purely on if an athlete does what we want them to do, that it's kind of crazy. You've been listening to Clutch with Keon Rose here on Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. Make sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch. And remember, I'll see you in 72 hours. Sons of Liberty up next. Stick around.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
With every election, the government always gets in. You're right to be angry.